This episode of the Combat Jack Show is brought to you by Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic geek and gamer items and pop culture gear. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. This month's Loot Crate is a head-to-head rough and tumble battle for your senses. They're celebrating the fighting heroes, battling rogues, 8-bit brawlers, and other factions that you love from some of your favorite geek and gaming favorites, including exclusive Mega Man and Assassin's Creed collectibles. There are also items from Halo, Street Fighter, and more. They've got another exclusive t-shirt this month with a design you will not find anywhere else. You do not want to miss out on the action in November. You have until the 19th of November at 9 p.m. Pacific time to subscribe and receive that month's crate. And when that cutoff happens, that's it. It's over, Jack. So make sure to head over to lootcrate.com/combat and enter code COMBAT, C-O-M-B-A-T, to save 10% on any new subscription. That's lootcrate.com/combat, LOOTCRATE.com/combat, and enter promo code COMBAT, C-O-M-B-A-T, to save 10% on any new subscription. Stop playing around and game like a boss at Loot Crate. And now, on to the Combat Jack Show with Bomani Jones.
Get ready for combat. No escaping. Get ready for combat. Get ready for combat. Yeah. The Combat Jack Radio Show. Stand up.
Internet, you tune into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com. What's up, Pete?
What's going on, Combat?
Man, listen. You know I love this guy right here, man.
Most definitely.
I remember during the halcyon days of like the black blogger renaissance, I used to read his blogs and just be like, yo, there's a comrade over there that's doing the same thing that we're doing. And then the last time he was on this show about 1.5 years ago, you know, he was doing some humble things and he was like, I will never leave Durham, North Carolina.
He said that.
I'm going to stay here. And now years later, look at this man, Bomani Jones, co-host of ESPN's show, The Highly Questionable, and the podcast, The Evening Jones Internets. Welcome to the Combat Jack Show. Once again, Mr. Bomani Jones. What's up, sir?
Appreciate it, man. What's going on? And to be clear, I said I wasn't leaving Durham unless somebody gave me one hell of a reason to leave.
Is that what you said?
And then they gave me a hell of a reason to leave.
They gave you a hell of a reason to leave.
Yeah, I ran out of stuff to do in Durham, honestly. Like, I stayed there for 10 years, and there was just no more money for me to make in Durham.
How does Miami compare to Durham, man?
You know, it's interesting. I think Miami would probably hit a little bit harder on me if I was still like 25.
Right.
Right?
What do you mean, like hard? Like,
well, Miami, the thing I liked about Durham is like my parents are college professors. Like, if you're intellectually curious, it's a good place to be because you can find all kinds of intellectually curious people and you have great conversations and stuff like that. And Miami is a lot of things, but intellectually curious is not high up on the list, right? Like, that's just not what it is. But it has a whole lot of benefits to it. There are worse places to be. So, like, after 10 years in North Carolina, Miami hits right on top.
Now, you were in a situation, man, where you looked up, you had a deal with Fox, and all of a sudden now you have a bidding war between Fox and ESPN.
Yeah, it was a good time to not have a job.
Right.
Because basically what had happened was all these different companies were starting their sports networks. So NBC had started their sports network. Fox was getting Fox Sports 1 going. Everybody had something going. And I was in, I guess you could say, a bit of a unique position in that I had a platform on ESPN, but I didn't have a contract.
Right.
So if you wanted somebody that had some visibility but was not necessarily seen as being establishment per se, there I was right there needing a job. Want to give me a job? There we go. And I thought it was going to go one direction. And then out of nowhere, it went the other direction. And the thing that had happened was I'd never been to Miami before last March.
You had never been?
I'd never been.
Right.
So all these decisions were being made and things had come up. And one thing that come up was the idea, the option of going to Miami and doing things like I'm doing right now. But I'd never been there. I'd never been in a room with Dan Le Batard before. I hadn't done any of that stuff. So how could I sign up for that without knowing more about it? So I was like, no. So I was going in one direction.
Now, where would you have been if you gone with Fox?
Probably on Fox Sports Live, their nighttime show.
But what city would you live in?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other.
Right. And see, I've lived out there before.
Okay.
You know, in LA's got pluses because one good thing about LA is there's a lot of people building and grinding. Like a difference between LA and Miami, nobody goes to Miami to work.
Right.
You go to Miami to hang out, and if you hang out and you like hanging out when you're there, you decide you want to come because you want to hang out there.
Yes.
LA, say what you want about it. If you're moving to LA for whatever reason, you're going to be working.
You're working.
Like everybody's going there to work. Like that Stars Born shit is work, right? You know, you waiting tables, you going to auditions, whatever it is, but people are grinding, right? Miami ain't about to grind, right? So I was like, LA, this is going to be cool. It'll be around some different people.
And you had already made up your mind.
Yeah, I was there.
Right.
I was pretty much there. And then what had happened was, this was like pure coincidence.
Yes.
So the dude I get my suits from, he's a dude in Hong Kong, and he comes around to the U.S. twice a year.
Fancy.
And he happened to be in Miami in March. And I had scheduled a chance to go to Miami, and I was like, hey, while I'm there, I'll go down, I hang out with Dan. I hadn't done that before. That way I could deduct the trip, you know, because it suddenly became business, right? Cool. So before I left, I called the people I was working, the folks on How They Question One. I said, look, I'm going to be in Miami. And they said, yeah, why don't you come down? So I said, you know what? Before I left, I was like, I'll just throw a jacket and shirt in just in case.
Yeah.
So I get down there. I go to the studio. We did the show for 2 days. And I flew back home after I got fitted up for the clothes. Like, I basically went and bought all the clothes I thought I was going to need to be on TV 5 days a week on a nighttime show. God, that cost so much money, right? It was like I had to get, you know, I was not prepared for that life.
It costs a lot to be grown up. Right?
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So it had to be done. And so I had ordered all that stuff, and I did the show with them for those 2 days, and I got back to North Carolina, and I called my agent, and I was like, okay, we got to figure out how to change this up a little bit. Like this is different. Like, it's a different story once you'd actually been in the room with people and you knew how you could work with them and you had like a better idea of what it was going to be. So then once I figured that out, then we got to talking and kind of figuring out what we wanted to do. And the conclusion ultimately came, there was no better person for me to work with than Dan.
Right.
And there was no producer that would be better for me than Eric Rideholmes, the creator of PTI. He's the guy that does this show. So once all that math was done and that was taken care of, you know, sometimes people got to be mad at you, right? Like that's just what it comes down to.
Exactly.
You look up and you realize I've put these people in a very uncomfortable situation, and that's really terrible. But if one of us has got to be uncomfortable, and I'm the one that gets to make the decision, it ain't about to be me.
I mean, but when you look at your situation, man, and you've been independent for so long, and now you have a bidding war, that's like fucking waking up and having Rihanna and Jennifer Lopez fighting each other to give you the fanny.
Well, especially when I've been getting fired pretty consistently for the better part of the last 15 years. I mean, like, I can list all the jobs. Sometimes it was, you know, sometimes it was some nonsense. Sometimes it was just kind of the breaks of the game. Like, I'm cool with most of the people that made decisions that they weren't going to have me work like that anymore, right? But that was the first time that I'd ever been in a situation where it was like, really? So there's more than one people that might, more than one person that might want me to work for them. That had never happened for me before. Like, I'd been like critically acclaimed, you know, like the real thing, critically acclaimed. You ain't selling no records.
You ain't selling no records.
You know,
you selling like, wood in the
right. I'd been there. Or it's like you're critically acclaimed, and then you got to figure out how to control your own distribution so you can keep the money or whatever it was. This was a little different because I'd worked for ESPN, I guess, in 2007 when I was writing with them, and they didn't renew my contract in 2007. And I had reached the conclusion that that was a place that I was never going to be again. And then Around the Horn came around after I'd done a little bit of freelance writing stuff. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, but that was still like freelance stuff. You never could have told me 7 years ago that I would be on a television show on the network, because I had concluded that whatever it was that I did was just simply not something that they wanted. And I wasn't hurt about it. That was just what it was. So I made a decision on structuring my career that we're not going to approach this like ESPN is the goal, because we've been there and it didn't work for us, right? So I decided I was going to do things the way that I did them for those years. Then they came back, and now I do things like I did them for those years. Right. I just do it for them.
And it fits.
It works.
It fits.
It works. I found the lucky situation of the people that I wanted to work with, and the people working for that I could learn about how to do. I don't know anything about doing a television show, right? Like, I learned to do radio on the fly. TV is a whole different thing to learn. Right. And I'm with people that I've really learned how to do this, and I'm with a guy that's next to me where we both have a situation where we're not threatened by each other. So this isn't going to turn into something where you're looking on TV and we just obviously can't stand each other, you know, because that happens with people.
That is a thing, right?
Yeah.
Where you're working with somebody and you can't stand them, and there's like, you know, some person intimidates the other person.
Yeah.
Have you been in that situation?
I've been in similar situations like that, but the one I'm in now is just nothing like that. Nothing like that. And what I think happens with a lot of people, though, is if the work you're doing or the show you're on kind of defines your existence and the way you see yourself, you need to feel important. Like you look at anywhere else where things tend to go bad is where one person or another feels the need to be important. That's what it is.
Isn't that a great? I mean, Pete, when Damon Dash was on the show, one of the most important things that he said was, you know, either you're that person and you're going to do what you do regardless, or that job defines you. Once that job is gone, you're gone. You know what I'm saying?
And that happens to a lot of people.
Right.
You know, like especially in my business, you have to think about this. So if you were a sports columnist at a newspaper, right? If you're the lead columnist at a newspaper, there's a whole city that when it's time to decide how to think about something, they're coming to look at you. I mean, that's and if that's something you always wanted to be, that's a really big deal. I'm working with Dan, where Dan just wanted to work for the Miami Herald. That's what he wanted to do. And he became a columnist at the Miami Herald something like 20 years ago. Like he was way ahead of the curve. He's done the things that he wants to do. And where it makes him rare, I think, is really uncommon to somebody to work with, is that there are not a lot of people that would open their platform up to share it with somebody like me. There just aren't. And he did, and it's never been a problem. And he's like, over his family, like his mom was my realtor. Like if I need something, done.
So he really embraced you.
Yes.
Right.
And there's no way, I can't imagine another person who in the same situation would have handled that the way that he has handled this.
And it's genuine. I was telling you off air, I was telling you how watching you guys, it looks like you just gel so well together.
Yeah.
And I feel like you guys are teaching each other things and then doing what you do together.
No, we are. The thing is, Dan's a generational talent. Like, you can't lose sight of that. Like, as a writer in particular, he is a rare generational talent, and he has a gift of being on television and being warm and inviting in a way of making you like him, right? Like, I don't have that. I'll never have that. You might like me, but it ain't because I'm making you like me. Right. It's, somewhere between begrudging and respect, and I can't believe this is happening.
We like you, Bomani.
Well, I appreciate that. Right. But it's not. But Dan has it in a way that I don't, and I've learned some things from watching that.
Right.
And
what have you learned?
What have I learned?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've learned, and I think it helps that situation that I'm in, is that I've done a lot of shows that don't let you smile very much. And so people think I'm a little bit more charged up and angry than I actually am. And so with Dan, I'm in a place where it's comfortable. And what he told me very early on, he was like, look, I see some things and I can help you out with these things. And he's like, I can help soften you a little bit. And not in a standpoint of like making me to a different person.
Right.
But if you know me personally, there are things about me that you might not be able to see on television or hear on the radio, you can hear it because there's more space to stretch out. On television, you don't always have that. And Dan has done a good job of helping to put me in situations that allow people to see me perhaps in a light that they might not have otherwise. Sometimes because of my mistakes, sometimes because of their biases. But at the end, I'm the one that's got to figure it out, right?
Right. So, different tax bracket.
A little bit, yeah.
How has your life changed?
I had a 650 square foot balcony, man. That's the one thing. I had when the Revolt Music Conference went down, one of my buddies came, and the fun part for me is the only thing I said I was really going to spend money on when I got there was the place. Like, I'm going to get a nice spot.
Right.
Like, I'm going to be careful on this car thing. I bought a car about a year before I moved down there that I thought could hold me through. I'm holding on tight not to do nothing stupid about that. But I was like, I'm going to get the nice place. So when I started looking at apartments, Dan's mom, she loves the beach. If she could have her way, everybody will stay on the beach. So she took me downtown because I said I wanted to go downtown. And she's like, okay, now I'll take you to the beach. So I went to this one place. This was way up on the beach, like 70th. And we walked in, and the carpets were ratty, and the appliances were old. But when you walked in and you pushed the door open, it was boom, water, right? Like you just pushed the door straight out the glass, it was boosh, water. And it was like, wow, I ain't going to get this one, but I got to get one of these. One of these.
Right.
So I went and got one of those.
Okay. But no dumb, you're not sniffing cocaine off the stripper's ass.
Nah.
You're not buying Rolexes for the crew.
Hey, this one contract could be the last, right? Like that's the one thing you got to remember. And this is why I've held off on the car in particular. Once you get to a certain level on the car, you're not going back. Right? Like that's just how people
what car do you really want though? Like what car is calling you?
Let me tell you what's funny about that. At one point the car call came, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I got a car. So I hit all the people I knew who like really knew cars. And I got my brother. I was like, okay, what car should I want to get? And he ran through a list, and one of them was a Mercedes CLS 550, right? And I had never seen it. I'd never thought about it. But then I looked it up and was like, I'd like a CLS 550. But then I was like, nope. I'm not going to do that. We're going to wait. You know what happened after I became aware of the CLS 550? I look across the parking garage behind me, and there's a CLS 550.
Okay.
I get to work, and I get to the parking lot, and what's there? A CLS 550. So, like, every time I'm trying not to think about this CLS 550, I keep seeing
That
the damn
temptation
CLS
is
550 everywhere. Yeah, man.
The
But
temptation.
but then the thing changed, though, because now I live on Miami Beach, and our studio's on Miami Beach.
Right.
So I drive 40 blocks. And I just can't rationalize spending that kind of money on a car to drive 40 blocks if I can't get over 30 miles an hour.
Right.
Like that's the Miami thing. You see the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, if like nobody can go faster than 30 miles an hour on the beach.
Yes.
I can't do that.
What is it about Miami